come to New York at 19 with literally $100. And what I knew how to do was swim. I was coming from Jamaica, and my parents gave me $100 and a round-trip ticket for open for a year. Somehow, make a long story short, I don't even know where to start to tell you the whole story. Bottom line is, I knew how to swim. I used to swim for Jamaica when I was a teenager and do international meets. It doesn't appear that way now, but trust me, I used to. And what happened is I needed to figure out how to live. And when I was at school, my coach in college, I ended up going to university in New York. And what he told me about a friend of his that also used to go to that college that now has in Manhattan this gym called 86 West that a lot of stars that lived in New York would go. And so I went there, and I realized he was paying me $6 an hour, I believe it was, and paying the Mexican $5 an hour. And between both of us, we were opening and closing that gym, especially in the summertime. That meant going in at 5 in the morning, leaving at 11 at night. But I didn't care because I was learning how to do the business. It just excited me. I couldn't believe it. He paid me $6 an hour to teach children for 30 minutes, and paid another lady, who happened to be a Jewish woman, maybe 8 years older than me at the time, paid her $40 an hour. So I figured out, what were those people coming in paying to teach how to swim? Eventually, I told him I would help him. I was doing aerobics. I never knew how to do aerobics. I just wanted to try whatever I could because I loved how the business was being run. That's what excited me. Not about the teaching swimming, but the overall operations. That's what was thrilling to me. So eventually, he started trusting me more and more that he would not come to work some days, and I was starting to manage the whole business. And so I saw how all the operations, et cetera, was done. So he then talked about, I can't tell you though, it's a long story if I get into it. Bottom line, I no longer was working there, and I needed to figure out how to live. So I said, you know what, I'm going to start teaching swimming, and I'm going to do it in Brooklyn, where I live, in the Jewish community, because that time it was around further, well, you guys don't know. Bottom line is, there was a Jewish community at the time, 20 plus years ago, in Brooklyn. And so I got flyers made up, walked around, no shame, neighborhood to neighborhood, handing out these flyers. But what I did, I went to Brooklyn College and begged them to rent me the space, telling them I would pay them, later on. And that taught me a lesson about signing contracts. But anyway, and then insurance companies, I had to be insured for property for, I forget how much, but I remember liability was over $2 million. And after calling like 16 people, one crazy man said, I will insure you if you pay me after the first 2 months. Have no idea why. Whatever, it turned out good. I was able to show my documentation that I'm insured, and people started calling on the phone to have me teach their kids how to swim. Guess what? It turned out to be really fun, and not only that, I had to now hire about 8 other people because it had grown so much, over 100 kids. So I was juggling school and juggling that, and God knows, trying to hire college students that didn't depend on finances for business was not cool. But what was a differentiator were in terms of ethics and values. And I started seeing how people made decisions based on their value system. It wasn't based on how good they were or how they presented themselves. It was what were the values they were taught as children. I started noticing that, and I'll talk more about that later. Anyway, 2 years into it, I was making, at the time, the first year I made like $75,000 profit, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, Of course, today you think like that's crazy, but I was like, 20 years old at that time. And what happened 2 years later, is that they told me they had to shut the pool space down for about 2 weeks because they had to clean it, et cetera, et cetera. Guess what? They opened it back, doing their own thing, because now they saw exactly what would happen. I don't know what happened after that. They didn't stick around, and just literally moved on to something else. Because by now I was now interested in working in magazines, and my favorite magazine was New Woman, and so I'll tell that. Well, I won't go into the details. I ended up working there. Anyway, bottom line is, this is a lesson for tenacity and just doing things in terms of faith, just believing and knowing that it will happen. No doubt. I was just naive enough to not have doubt at the time. And by now, where you are, when you're 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 years old, you have all these dreams and aspirations, and by the time you're 8 and 9, between parents and peers and everybody else telling around you, oh, that's impossible, you have to do this, you have to do that. Literally, whatever you set your mind to, it's possible. So that was the first business. And today I have Vivo 360, and I don't know why half of this is showing, but at least we're seeing something. So Sojo Inc., it's the same business, I just changed the name of it, and we are 14 years old today. These are some of the clients that we have. And I'm just going to show you, we do creative work and digital work. So I'll just show you quickly some of the clients. And then I will just, okay, so this is more of a spiritual, not religious, but a spiritual discussion group that I started a year and a half ago. And the whole point of this is just about uplifting folks, showing a way of how to live a joyous life in spite of what is happening outside of you. So if you have ever seen a tornado, in a book rather, not living in it, or a hurricane, there is always a center that is the eye of the storm, they call it, and inside of it is calm, and outside a lot is like storms happening. The goal in life is to be that inside the eye, so that no matter what's happening outside of you, you are not affected. And the way you see that, I can see even in the group today, what has happened is something as simple as you're driving through traffic and you're getting agitated because somebody cut you off. That's taking things personally. And so what it allows you to do by literally with this group is just going within yourself to do self-discovery. Going within yourself. What's happening, somebody cutting you off, honking you, doing whatever, will not affect you. You become the eye of the storm. And that's how you will get through life, no matter what you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur, a physician, a banker, no matter what you do, being the eye of the storm. So that's one of the entities. When I was looking at the most successful people, they always had a spiritual practice. Didn't matter what it was. Didn't have to be a religious practice, but a spiritual practice. Everyone, including if it's Warren Buffett, they all have spiritual practices. They may not speak to you, speak out about it. The other entity that I have is Show You Care, and it's dedicated to educating and building self-awareness, especially among girls and women. Among women about sexual and verbal abuse. And we really sometimes don't know what that looks like. But anyway, so that's another thing that I do. So right now we work on 3 different entities. So defining an entrepreneur. This is the definition that is in, I think it's Wikipedia. It's a person who organizes, operates, and assumes the risk for a business venture. So when you go to get a job, you have not assumed the risk of that owner or group of owners. You are actually part of the wheel. For example, picture a wagon going uphill. You have your foot out and you're pulling to help that wagon go up the hill. You are the employee. And usually the person that's taking the risk is the person doing the pull up. So that's how I kind of see what an entrepreneur is. You're taking all the risk, you have that load on your shoulders, and you're going up that hill. And an employee or staff member, they're very, very crucial, and they're helping to pull the load up the hill. Now, when you start seeing people, and people don't like to talk about what does a bad employee look like, their foot is inside having a joyride like this while you are pulling up the hill. So whether you have a business or not, I know your parents can tell you they work with some people that are literally like this, going up the hill, and while you are there, or other staff members are having to put 2 feet out just to get up there. And I just want to tell you the good, the bad, and the indifferent. Okay, so the first, I didn't know this is what it was called, but the first thing that I did, I remember thinking about doing a business, which was not the norm in my family. I was about 16, I wanted to have my magazine. By 17, I was selling encyclopedias. It wasn't kind of cool. But I noticed that at 17, if I went in my school uniform, people were empathetic towards me. They're like, oh my God, and they would buy an encyclopedia. And I noticed that it didn't make sense to go door to door. That was crazy. I go to one family, they buy one encyclopedia, and they may or may not buy. I figured, go to schools in my school uniform. It looks fantastic. What a way to get empathy, right? And then at the same time, get people that actually have the cash to buy what I'm selling. So it was just the thrill of for me, it was the thrill of the sale, the journey to it, and also having the cash at the end was also amazing. So you start looking within yourselves, and schools don't teach you to become entrepreneurs. Most parents don't talk to you about that. They say become a lawyer, a doctor, whatever it is, but they don't speak about that. But entrepreneurs keep this world running because it's about new ideas. And I'm going to start talking to you about some really amazing people that have helped to change the world today. Okay, so kids can learn this is what entrepreneurship teaches you, problem solving. And obviously, someone knows how to solve major problems. Lead others, and this is what TeenHOP is all about. At least that's what I have noticed, and it's amazing, amazing experience for young girls and guys to be able to, young girls and guys to be able to experience what leadership is, so that when you get to a point, and there's nothing holding you back today to not, take on leadership skills and opportunities. And before I get into something else, I wanted to show you a video that's really good this time. But so it's not for the light of heart. It's not like, although it's good to save, and I'm an advocate for that, saving is a key component, and I wish I had been, taught that when I was younger, and it's never too early to save. But most entrepreneurs usually, literally put everything on the line, including their homes, and some are known to become homeless. So it's not for the faint of heart. And you're literally living because you believe that each moment can be different. Literally, after time number 6, we're like, oh, I'm done. Forget it. Can you imagine we wouldn't be able to see this today if he had said that? You couldn't drive a car because there would be no light on it at night. You know what I mean? It's like you have to persevere. Henry Ford, he went broke 5 times. That is bankrupt, lost everything. Okay, some of us say, yeah. Macy's, didn't we do this modeling thing at Macy's, guys? How many Macy's there are? There are so many. You would not have a Macy's today if he had not failed the 7 times. Every store he had, he ran out of business. It was not good. And Walt Disney, let's not get started with him. You know, Sky was telling me, Sky found this one about that. He was fired from his newspaper job because he lacked imagination. What a concept. Then he started several other businesses and all went bankrupt before Disney. Albert Einstein couldn't speak before he was 4, and my God, he definitely couldn't read before he was 7. And you know what? He got expelled from school because they said he was retarded.
Yeah, retarded.
And that's the word they used back then. So, you know, not good. So you can't allow other people to define who you are. And that's why I'm an advocate for, you know, calling awareness towards verbal abuse of children and women. Because we're, you know, society, sometimes it's okay if the person is not physically hit, it's okay to define them by saying, you are this, you are that. The only person that knows who you are is yourself. And the last one, who knows the symbol? Starbucks. How many times did a bank turn him down? Let me see that number.
242.
242 times. Can you imagine how many of us would be doing Starbucks today alone? 242 times. So don't let me hear after 8 times I'm done, I have given up. That is crazy. That is perseverance. Okay? Okay.
Wow. It just sparked something inside of me. I'm glad you put that number up because I call it careerpreneur. Yeah. I do both. So I'm like, ooh,
242 times, and you wouldn't have a Starbucks today. Can you imagine life, the world, without a Starbucks? Okay, so let's not do that. So